Thank you for listening to the show on Really Big Something Channel. October 9th, 2017.
Okay, my friends, so now the question is, what did Stephen Paddock exactly do for the time that he was up there during the massacre in Las Vegas? Here is now the absolute latest. You want to talk about a plot that is just thickening and thickening and thickening. Here is now the absolute latest update. I got a sense, my friends, that we're never going to know the real motive. I have a sense that we're never going to really know why Stephen Paddock did what he did. Because we're now a week into this investigation, and now it just seems that the investigation is going everywhere. So, on the one hand, we now have some FBI officials claiming to the media that they believe Paddock was mentally ill, but that he was undiagnosed. That he had mental health issues, but that he was an undiagnosed mentally ill man. On the other hand, you now have a co-worker of his who worked with him for over 10 years, who frequently had email exchanges with him, who, in fact, described him as a, quote, goofball, who liked to make jokes, was sociable, gregarious, seemed absolutely normal to her. Former colleagues of his, when he was an accountant with Lockheed Martin, say, no, the last thing this guy was some kind of deranged, unhinged, psychotic. He didn't exhibit any of those signs. On top of all of this, we have now found out two other important pieces of information. Number one, that in the garage of the Mandalay Bay Hotel, Stephen Paddock's car was taken out of the garage. For whatever reason, it left the garage. At the time that it left the garage, within about a minute or two, as the car is outside on the streets, somebody else had gotten into Stephen Paddock's room using his key. So that clearly shows that there was a second person, along with Stephen Paddock, who was there with him at the hotel, was seen, as I said, many witnesses said he was seen with a woman for days before the atrocity. He can't be at two places at once. He just can't. He can't be in his car and in his hotel room. So he's either in the hotel room and someone's in his car, or he's in his car and someone's in his hotel room. So without a doubt now, there was somebody else who at a minimum was there and clearly had foreknowledge of what he was going to do. At a minimum. He did not act alone. We've also now found out that he took cruises. He liked to cruise. Not only was he a big high roller and a big gambler, but he also liked to cruise. One of the places he would stop off when he would cruise, apparently with Mary Lou Danley, is that he stopped off in Jordan. He stopped off in the United Arab Emirates. So he made multiple stops in the Middle East. ISIS has claimed responsibility. They've now tripled down. In fact, they've even given out his name. I said this on the last show on Friday. It's Abu Abdul al-Amriki. They say he was converted to Islam 6 months ago and that this was an ISIS terrorist operation. We don't know, but clearly now there was a Middle Eastern connection. He was at least cruising and getting off at ports in places like Jordan and the United Arab Emirates. Furthermore, and now there is no denying this, I said it last week, and now I've been completely at least vindicated on this front. The Filipino girlfriend, Mary Lou Danley, is a liar. She's an absolute liar. And now she's been caught in one of her major lies. One of her big lies is that when she was conveniently out of the country, visiting her family in the Philippines, she said she was just going on a little vacation. That this was just, he claimed he had got her cheap tickets. I want you to go see your family, spend a few weeks in the Philippines. This was all at the last second. He just said it just out of the blue. Here, Mary Lou, go to the Philippines, have a good time. She basically just went on a plane and flew to the Philippines. Then $100,000 was wire transferred to the Philippines. She says it was for her to buy a house and to take care of her family, yada, yada, yada. A neighbor in Mesquite, Nevada, one of their homes that they lived in, has now gone on the record saying, I clearly saw that first Stephen Paddock came with a big silver minivan. They unloaded everything from the house and packed it into his minivan. Then 2 weeks later, Mary Lou Danley packed everything into her car. That everybody found it extremely bizarre and strange. It's like they were moving out. In fact, she had loaded all of her belongings. She said everything that she possibly had, you can see being stuffed into the car. So much so that stuff was even tied to the roof of the car. In other words, she packed up everything. And it looked, the neighbor said it was so obvious, it looked like they were never coming back. If she's just going on a quick jaunt to the Philippines, why are you taking everything out of your house? Why are you loading up your car? I mean, you've got stuff, so you've packed your car with so much of your life belongings, you've even got stuff on the roof of your car. She's a liar. She's an absolute liar. And then my jaw dropped when I saw the story, and then I had to actually go see the video because I couldn't believe it. The Las Vegas police, or at least several officers of the Las Vegas police, gave an interview to 60 Minutes, which aired last night. And I'm going to play it in a second. But some of them have now told the media, you remember that notepad that was in Stephen Paddock's hotel room? People thought maybe it was a suicide note or whatever. It turns out it wasn't a suicide note. No. They say it was mathematical calculations that they found on that pad, which was calculating the height of the room, the distance of where the concert venue was, and so how you could shoot fire from the room to make sure you could maximize damage, calculating the height with the distance to make sure that the kill ratio would be as high as possible. That's what they found on the notepad. And as all of this is going on, here's what the Kuhner man is thinking out loud. I go, let me get this straight. Today is the 1 week. It was a week ago that the news broke. We are literally barely 1 week into an investigation. And the police are giving interviews to the media? In fact, the police officers who breached the hotel room, exploded, detonated a device, blew up the door, there was smoke, there was fire alarms were going off, and they were the ones who saw the gun, saw Stephen Paddock's body, they saw the note with the supposed mathematical calculations. These are the ones now that are talking to the media. And I'm saying to myself, this is a pending police investigation. We're not talking about 6 months down the road, 9 months down the road. The leads have all dried up. They don't know what the motive is. They're trying to maybe get some help from the public. We are barely 1 week into this investigation. And these guys are already putting their faces in front of the camera? They're already giving high-profile media interviews for their 15 minutes of fame? Their face, their name on 60 Minutes. Then what's next, guys? The View? What, ABC this morning? CBS this morning? When? Anderson Cooper on CNN? So tell me, when does Tucker Carlson get the big exclusive on Fox News? This is a complete breach of police protocol. Everybody knows when there's a pending investigation, never mind 1 week in, you don't talk to the media, you don't talk to anybody, you don't give interviews unless it's at a press conference through the sheriff or through the spokesperson for the investigation. You keep quiet. Why? Because it's a pending investigation. If there's a cell, if he had help, if there were other people, if there's important clues, you don't want to reveal that to the public. And instead, these guys are so eager to get their names and faces in the media spotlight, they couldn't wait to sit down and do it, not even with a local Vegas newspaper or something. No. We got to go to the biggest news show in the country. It's got to be 60 Minutes. So, listen now to some of these Las Vegas police officers who breached Stephen Paddock's hotel room. Well, everybody's got to be a star now. Everybody's got to be a media celebrity. Roll it, Brittany.
What do you see?
An armory.
An armory.
So many guns, so many magazines, stacks and stacks of magazines everywhere, just in suitcases, all neatly stacked against pillars that were in the room, all stacked up, rifles placed all throughout, all kinds of monitors and electrical equipment he had in there. It just looked like almost a gun store.
Shell casings all over the floor. I could smell the gunpowder that had went off in the room. So we were tripping over guns, tripping over long guns inside. There were so many.
That many?
Yes.
My initial scan of coming in the room with my rifle is just seeing, I'm seeing one male down, bleeding from the face. He's not a threat, kept going.
You said one male down. That was the shooter?
Yes.
Stephen Paddock. What were his wounds?
I didn't see any apparent wounds to his head, but I did see a lot of blood that had come out of his mouth.
Well, there was a bloody revolver, I think, nearby him that was on the ground, consistent with him shooting himself.
What else did you see?
I saw a few phones, laptops, a couple of laptops he had in there, a lot of drills.
Yeah, and drill
a lot of
bits,
drills and
tools.
drill bits, all kinds of tools.
This was eerie.
Very eerie. And the dust from the explosive breach, and then you got the flashing lights. I mean, it looks straight up like out of a movie.
And you guys I'm looking at this, I'm like, aren't you guys supposed to be quiet? Isn't this a pending investigation? And you guys you can't stop shooting your mouths off? You can't stop yakking? I mean, the only thing missing was, how did you feel? What were your feelings? I just thought, is the camera looking? I just, as a police officer, it chokes you up, and it just, am I going to get a show out of this? You think I'm going to get a show, maybe a contract? What do you think, huh? Okay, and just, and there's just blood everywhere. Bullets everywhere. It was horrible. It was just horrible. It was just horrible. And I'm looking at this, and honestly, with all due respect, the investigation's becoming a joke. The investigation's becoming a joke. No police officer worth his or her salt. You don't yak to the media in the middle of the beginning of an investigation. In fact, what do you always hear? Can't comment, we're investigating. Can't comment, investigation ongoing. We don't want to compromise this investigation in any way, shape, or form. These guys, they couldn't wait to shoot their mouths off. It's like, welcome to the United States of celebrity. I mean, some of the victims are still being buried, for God's sakes. And these guys are already running in front of CBS 60 Minutes to get their claim to fame, their 15 minutes of fame, and get their names, get their faces, get the story out there. What it felt like to be in the room, to have breached the room, to have been there. My friends, it's still early. I don't want to jump the gun, but if I'm not here to tell you the truth the way I see it, what's the point of me being behind the microphone? This does not pass the smell test in any way, shape, or form. At a minimum, this is turning into an absolutely unprofessional, incompetent, inept investigation. At the absolute best. At its absolute worst, I'm starting to smell a cover-up. I'm going to be honest with you, I'm smelling a cover-up. And I don't think now we're ever going to really know what drove Stephen Paddock to do what he did. But I want to ask you this question. What do you think is really going on here? And should these police officers have spoken to the media and given a high-profile interview to 60 Minutes, or did they just compromise the investigation and, frankly, make the whole investigation look like a ridiculous joke? 617-266-6868. Your calls, your reaction, next. Donna in Georgia, you're up first. Go ahead, Donna.
Hey, Jeff.
Donna, how are you?
Good, honey. The raving thing about this modern technology, I got to listen to you on the computer, and I'm not up there with the modern stuff. Anyway, listen, I wanted to tell you, on this Paddock guy, last week when they were talking about the meds possibly causing this anxiety problem, it's backwards. It's the other way around. It's I will bet you a steak dinner at your Manchester Chop House. We get up there. This guy is clearly so obviously involved with a terrorist organization, with Muslim Brotherhood. There is no way that he would be planning all of this much ahead. The reason why I said backwards on the meds is he wasn't screaming in his sleep and getting this anxiety stuff, therefore going to the doctor to get the meds. It's that he was already converted. The timing of this is too perfect. He was already converted, and then because he saw horrible things that they train you to do in the manuals, and because he knew what he was planning to do, that's what his deep inside that knows how evil this is, that's what woke him up screaming, and why he had to take the meds to calm himself down so that he could continue to do the work, and because he was having these dreams and knowing what he was going to do. The other thing is, when they said that they didn't know if he yelled Allahu Akbar, do you know, Jeff, if there was any audio of it? I know they had video of him.
What the police tell us is there is no audio of him in the room at all.
Okay, so how do they know if he yelled Allahu Akbar?
That's a very good point.
See, they said they didn't know. But you know what? I'm still thinking people are going to go underground on some of this. Maybe not all of the American converts are going to be yelling that out, so they don't always give themselves away. But this guy also had already booked a room overlooking Fenway in Boston and the Lollapalooza in Chicago. He didn't end up following through with them, but he made sure that he told them, tell me if these specific rooms are not going to be available. He had them targeted to do exactly the same thing. There's no way that you plan all that stuff and you accumulate all this stuff and you go through the mental stuff that he was going through that he is not a convert to Islam.
Donna, thank you very much for that call. One minor correction. He booked those rooms for the Lollapalooza in Chicago. He didn't book anything in Boston. He was scouting to hit Fenway, scouting the hotels, but from everything we know, he did not book a room. It's a minor thing, but I just want to make sure we're 100% accurate. Other than that, I think you're spot on. Mark in New York. Go ahead, Mark.
Jeff, first, I want to thank you for all that you're doing to, bring light to these issues. I want to thank you for that. Jeff,
my pleasure,
I
Mark.
just have a question, and then I'm going to make a point.
Yes.
The first question is, did you look at the photo of the very bloody photo of him on the floor?
Yes, I saw that photo. Yes, it was given to me by law enforcement.
Yeah, Jeff, why is it that the blood is not covering the unspent bullets? That thing always bothered me. You know what I'm saying? I mean, if you shoot yourself in the head, the blood is going to be on top of the bullets, covering the bullets. So it's like the pristine bullets are on top of the blood. Did you see that, or?
Mark, what I can just tell you is this,
Yes.
is that I'm just telling you what law enforcement is saying.
Okay.
They believe that he shot himself in the mouth.
Okay.
That not in the head, but in the mouth. So
All right, okay.
he fell on the ground after he shot himself in the mouth. That's what they're trying to tell us.
Okay. And then I have just one other point, Jeff.
Yes.
I'm looking at a document, Security Exchange Form Number 4, filed with the United States Security and Exchange Commission by James Murin, who's the CEO of Mandalay. Beginning September 7th, this man sold $14 million worth of shares in his own company. What did he know, and when did he know it?
Mark, that's a very good question. I mean, I don't know. I mean, Mandalay, they do these kind of deals all the time. Look, you may be onto something, Mark. I'm not, disavowing it or shooting it down. To me, what I'm more interested in is Paddock, the woman that he was with, who was with him in the hotel room. I want to know that entire nexus and that entire network. And I want to know why the FBI shot down the ISIS connection within 12 hours, shot down all of the connections to international terrorism, when we now know he traveled to the Middle East. We know that ISIS has claimed responsibility multiple times. We know that he planned this for months and months and months on end. Guys, you know, if it looks like a duck, talks like a duck, walks like a duck, it's a duck. Or am I wrong? Let's take it to the newsroom.
An armory.
So many guns, so many magazines, stacks and stacks of magazines everywhere, just in suitcases, all neatly stacked against pillars that were in the room, all stacked up, rifles placed all throughout, all kinds of monitors and electrical equipment he had in there. It just looked like almost a gun store.
A week to the day of the shooting, law enforcement officers who breached the hotel room at the Mandalay Bay now talk to CBS's 60 Minutes. There's supposed to be a pending investigation. You're not supposed to compromise it, but let that go. And they talk about what they saw in that hotel room. Furthermore, we have now found out that Stephen Paddock cruised often. He would visit Middle Eastern countries like Jordan and United Arab Emirates. We're also finding out now that his girlfriend has lied. She obviously was packing all of her belongings to leave the country a month before the terrorist, the massacre, let's just call that, the massacre took place. And so my question to you is this. With the FBI now increasingly taking over the investigation, and with the Democrats now ramping up gun control legislation, they now are blaming guns. They're going after bump stocks. Republicans say they're willing now to regulate or ban bump stocks. Dianne Feinstein herself admits no law could have prevented what took place in Las Vegas. Will we ever now find out what really happened at the Mandalay Bay massacre? Do you now smell a cover-up? 617-266-6868. John in New Hampshire. Go ahead, John.
Comrade Kuhner.
John, how are you, my friend?
Doing well, sir. To answer your question, I smelled a cover-up as soon as I heard the FBI was saying no terrorist connections. I knew. I was like, there's no way you investigate all of that in 12 hours. Sorry, wrong. Second of all, I heard an unsubstantiated report that the owners of the Mandalay Bay were not only contributors to the Democrats, but they also contribute to the CARE organization. I want to know the why. Why is nobody asking questions about the owners of that hotel? How can you possibly have somebody with stacks and stacks of suitcases in your hotel room and you know nothing about it, okay? Why is the FBI covering this up? Because they're obviously covering this up. Why is nobody talking about the security tapes at Mandalay Bay? There are so many whys with no answers that you're exactly right. This whole thing stinks.
John, I love your call, and I want to commend you for your courage, because what they do now is when you start asking these obvious questions, and they're obvious, you're branded as a conspiracy theorist. They try to morally browbeat you. So I want you to think about this, okay? Jeff Kuhner is now the bad guy. I'm not kidding. All these libs in Boston and Massachusetts, look at Jeff Kuhner. How dare he not accept the official media narrative? No. Come on. This was one guy. He just snapped. He was just unhinged. And it's gun control. And you just banned those bump stocks. And you just shut up now. Just shut up and follow the party line. Don't ask. Don't question. Show no skepticism whatsoever. Well, let me throw a few more questions on top of yours, John. How does a guy have absolutely no social media footprint? None? No online presence whatsoever? In this day and age? And he was a real estate investor? He was a big high-stakes gambler? He owned a business with his brother? And this guy apparently had zero? no social media profile whatsoever. He's almost like a ghost. Then you have the woman, and I'm going to get to this story tomorrow, but it's just incredible. It broke just before our show. But this woman that worked with him for years saying the person that is being described by the media and by the FBI is the exact opposite of the person that I knew. And she has all of these emails saying, look, he's cracking jokes. We're laughing. We're having fun. He's gregarious. He's social. He likes to have a good time. He likes to gamble. He likes to drink. He likes to spend money. You know, this hermit-like person who's obviously very alone and completely in the wilderness, and nobody knows him, and he's this, you know, almost this caricature of a human being. I don't buy it. I don't buy it. Lockheed Martin is one of the biggest contractors, defense contractors in the world. You know how thoroughly they vet their people? So you've got a successful 64-year-old retired accountant worth millions and millions and millions of dollars, and you're trying to paint him as this misanthrope, this misfit, who all he did was stick to himself and couldn't stand the sight of anybody. By the way, now prostitutes are coming out and saying, all of them unnamed, saying that he had violent rape fantasies. I'm serious. That he would buy them for $6,000 a pop, and that he enjoyed, you know, tying them up and, forgive me, violently, aggressively having relations with them, imitating kind of like a violent rape fantasy. Then you've got the girlfriend who says, quote, he's the most honest, caring person she's ever met in the world. But then they're saying he loved to frequent prostitutes all the time. You see how none of this adds up? And you've got her packing everything into her car, but she's telling us, no, it was just a trip to the Philippines. It's just a little trip to the couple weeks to the Philippines. That's all. See my mommy, see my family. That's all. No, guys. Hey, I wasn't born yesterday. 617-266-6868. Mike in Methuen. Go ahead, Mike.
Hey, Jeff, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
You know, you're asking if there's a cover-up, and while I'm watching this kind of play out before us, it reminds me of Oliver Stone's film JFK.
Yes.
The part of the movie where Kevin Costner's character is meeting with Donald Sutherland, and Donald Sutherland lays the conspiracy out right in front of him, and it's like everything was adding up too perfectly. That's kind of what so there's definitely a cover-up, and you know the lady they say who was in the crowd yelling at everybody, you're going to die?
Yes.
She's the prostitute. She's the one that was in the room with him, and she saw what he was about to do, and she probably, theoretically, took the money she got from doing her job, possibly could have bought some drugs, and have gone out into the crowd all hyped up and yelling at everybody, telling them they're all going to die.
So, Mike, your theory is you think that the girl that was described as an Hispanic woman 45 minutes before the massacre saying you're all going to die, you think that may have been one of the prostitutes or the prostitute with them in the room?
She was the prostitute in the room when they had the receipt of the room service for two. She was the one in there.
See, the other thing that I think, look, the sheriff blurted it out. Notice now what's happening. As the FBI takes more control over the investigation, you can see the frustration on the sheriff's face. And he kind of blurted it out. He said, to pull this off, 64 years of age, in the condition that this guy was in, he would have to have been, quote unquote, Superman. In other words, what the sheriff is saying is none of this adds up.
Because look at this. I mean, you look at the weapon obtaining, the different amounts of tannerite available. Do you think this was all accomplished on his own? Self-value, face value. You got to make the assumption that he had to have some help at some point.
Of course. That's what nobody is asking. How did this guy pull this off all by himself? It's practically impossible. There's just no getting around that single fact. This fact is an insurmountable fact. A guy, 25 years of age, 240 pounds solid muscle, could barely have pulled this thing off. Never mind the guy 64. It's impossible. How come nobody is asking that obvious question? Nobody's even asking it. And let me say one more final thing. This is a corrupted FBI now. This is not the days of J. Edgar Hoover. This is Jim Comey's FBI. This is Andrew McCabe, his deputy. That's his FBI. These are the guys now that are slowly taking over this investigation. I don't trust them as far as I can throw them. They have politicized the top echelons of that bureau. If there's a cover-up, they're the ones that have already engaged in cover-ups. And so my suspicion is this. If this was Islamic terrorism, and they knew about it, and this thing fell through the cracks, they're all going to go down. Comey, McCabe, the whole stinking gang. And that's why the fact that the FBI is now taking control of this investigation makes me even doubly nervous. And my fear now is they're already preparing the groundwork. We just may never know. What motivated him? We'll never know. 617-266-6868. Russ in Rochester. Go ahead, Russ.
How you doing, Jeff?
I'm good. How are you, Russ?
Good. You're doing a great job as usual.
Thank you, Russ.
Topic.
Thank you.
What I wanted to talk about, I don't know if you've heard this or not, but I read this on, I think it was the D.C. caller, and it was talking about they found explosives in his car in one of his homes.
Yes.
And it was the same explosive that they found traces of in New York City from that Afghani that they caught. Exactly.
The Islamic terrorists. They found 50 pounds of tannerite.
Right.
And pounds of ammonium nitrate.
Exactly. Now, this guy, like you said, this is definitely a cover-up. Also, too, I read where he was going house to house. He would stay at a house for 2 weeks, which had no furniture or nothing, and then they move on to another home. Exactly the same thing with no furniture. They would, I wonder if this guy somehow is an arms dealer or something.
I think, Russ, I think you're on. Look, I think that's going to come out. I think there's no question about it. This guy was trading in weapons, or it looks like it anyway. And who goes house to house to house? You stay 2-3 weeks, then you move. 2-3 weeks, then you move. 2-3 weeks, then you move. No, and don't tell me that he's psychotic, or he's got mental health issues, or he's paranoid, no, I've known a lot of paranoid people in my life. I've known mentally ill people in my life. They don't buy 4, 5, 6 properties and just travel one to the other, to the other, to the other. They were on the move because they needed to be on the move, because they were plotting this attack. This was well crafted. This was perfectly planned. It was meticulously thought out. He could not have done it alone. There's, to me, no getting around that fact. And so, my friends, again, the media is lying to us. 617-266-6868. More with your calls next. Linda, you're up next. Thanks for holding. Go ahead, Linda.
Hi, Jeff. I love your show.
Thank you, Linda.
You don't suppose maybe the girlfriend was paid off to keep her mouth shut? He sent her $100,000 to the Philippines, which, as you had said, goes a long way to help her and her family. And also, who's going to inherit all those homes that he has and his money?
Linda, thank you very much for that call. I'm going to say something now that I haven't revealed on the air, but I'm going to reveal it now. And you'll see why. Bear with me 30 seconds. When my mother passed away, God bless her soul, 9 years ago, my father made a decision quite quickly after my mother passed away, which my sister and I vehemently disagreed with. He got remarried. I didn't want him to do it. I expressed my disapproval in the strongest possible terms. So did my sister. But let that go. He married a woman from the Philippines. So I know a lot about the Philippines. Believe me, I know a lot about the Philippines. So he got remarried against our family's wishes, but let that go. He paid for her to come to Canada. She's now living with him, taking care of him, but he sends money back to the Philippines. Now, I am telling you, you can take this to the bank, okay? $100,000 in the Philippines is literally like millions of dollars here in America. The Philippines is one of the poorest countries in the world. $10,000 in the Philippines gets you a huge house. Like I don't think people understand that. Like $1,000 in the Philippines, you're basically set up for the whole year. A couple $1,000, you put the whole family. You take care of the parents, the sisters, the brothers. I'm not kidding, everybody. So when I saw that he had wired $100,000 to that woman in the Philippines, Linda, you better believe it, that was payoff money. You better, that was either hush money, payoff money, whatever it is. Because that is literally the equivalent, say, in American, for American standards, of a woman, say, living in America getting a $3-4 million wire transfer. You're like, whoa, no, that's not breaking up money. That's not money. Oh, I think he's going to leave me now. No, absolutely not. That is the kind of money that could take care of her, her mother, her sisters, the whole freaking family for the rest of their lives in the Philippines. Now, to me, she's clearly involved in this. At a minimum, she definitely knew what was going to happen and did nothing. At a minimum. The worst, I think she was clearly, worst, she played a part. Take your pick. And now we've caught her lying. She was ready to run to the Philippines and spend the rest of her life there. It's clear to me as the sun comes up. It's as clear as the sky is blue. So I am telling you that $100,000 to the Philippines, it's like you won the lottery. Bruce in Essex. Go ahead, Bruce.
Was Braddock wearing gloves, and if not, were his fingerprints on the revolver?
He was wearing latex gloves, according to what the police have told us.
Okay.
And which is a bit strange because, think about it, Bruce. If I'm here, just to massacre people, what do I care about protecting my fingerprints? What do I care about trying to not keep me implicated? So, Bruce, again, you see, that's the problem. There are now so many open questions that what the media and the FBI, not the Vegas police, but the FBI, what they're asking us to believe is it's impossible. Dave in New Hampshire. Go ahead, Dave. Dave, I've got 30 seconds. Go.
Oh, well, first was listen to the audio. That does not sound like a bump stock. It sounds like a fully automatic rifle. Number one. Number two, if he was willing to kill all those innocent people, why wouldn't he have turned his back and then tried to take some cops out as they came in the door, knowing he was still going to end up dead either way?
Dave, I agree with you. Look, he may have been a patsy. He may have been the fall guy. And my fear is now we may never know. Okay, coming up next, Trump unveils his 70-point immigration plan. This is the deal we've been looking for. What's in it?
The voice of Boston is you. 680 WRKO Boston, 93.7 WEEI HD2 Lawrence, Boston. It's 2 o'clock.